crankshafts here, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of these different little round things here. You might, if you don't know much about engines, fear not, I got you. So these little round things here, these are called journals. Journals. You get the point. Ones that run along the center are called main journals. So this is a main journal, main journal, main journal, main journal, main journal. So you're gonna have 5 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Cool. Then you see little small ones here that are kind of to the side. These are rod journals. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Hence we got a Honda engine, 4 cylinders, 4 rods, 4 pistons, 4 rod journals. Get it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. And these things right here, these are counterbalances. So these things kind of, because crankshaft is pretty heavy. So these are counterbalances, helps balance the whole crankshaft out. So the thing with these the thing with these journals here is that you have bearings. So the bearings are the ones that I showed you guys, the ones in the rod. Let me actually pull one of them out. So this one right here is from rod number 1, right? So rod number 1 here would actually be this one here. No, sorry, this is the main journal here. Rod number 1 would be this one here. So these here, you kind of tell how they're all busted out. In similar fashion, you can also see how rod number 1 is kind of busted out. You see like those bronze markings and stuff. You can see that on the actual bearings here. See how it's kind of like busted out right there? I was almost eating away at some of the bearing material. Ooh, look at that right there. That's all bad. Little piece right there, right? So these bearings are like little shells. So they go around the actual journal. So you're gonna see them cup around like this, around, and then have the other side, just for demonstration purposes. Have go on the other side like that. Boom. So this allows the rod to spin without any grinding around the crankshaft, right? So that's how that works. You also got to know that there's supposed to be a clearance between the inside of the bearing here and the outside of the rod journal here. Same thing for the main journals and the main bearings, but there's supposed to be a clearance, and that clearance is to allow oil to run through. You run them too tight, it's gonna seize up. You run it too loose, you already know it's gonna spin a bearing. And if you run too tight and there's not enough clearance for oil to run through, well, guess what? It's gonna get hot, seize up, and the whole shabaco again. It's gonna be toast. So because the crankshaft is so delicate, any of these markings that are on here that might not look like it's too bad, it can be a problem. And so this crank, I'm pretty sure it's gonna need grinding. It's gonna need a polishing. A polishing would be your best bet. Just a slight polish, you can get it back and going. But given the condition that this crankshaft went through, I'm pretty sure it's gonna require grinding. You could measure the diameter of the actual journals, and I can show you guys real quick how to do it. I kind of want to split this into like 2 videos, just like a little 1 minute 2 video how to measure the journals and stuff. I'm not a professional at all by any means or machinist, but DIY type style. I'm trying to be reliable and credible at the same time. Now, if I recall correctly, the specifications for this Y8 crank, it's going to be, for the rod journal diameter, I think it's going to be 1.7707 hyphen, right? The range 1.7717. So it's going to translate to 1 inch, 770 thousandths and 7 tenths to 1 inch, 771 thousandths and 7 tenths of an inch. So you basically have a difference of only 1/1000th of an inch, which is 0.001, 1/1000th of an inch, right? Third decimal place. So I'll post a picture right now, right here. As you guys can see, right, for the rod journal diameter, it's showing you 1.7707 and then hyphen range, right? 1.7717. So like I said, 1 inch, 777 thousandths and 7 tenths of an inch, and 1 inch, 771 thousandths and 7 tenths of an inch, right? So that's the range. After seeing those numbers there, you see those are the specifications. And obviously those numbers are for standard new. That's basically how the crankshaft, that's what they measured. That's what Honda measured when it came out from the factory. This crank is nowhere near new. And then you see also tab where it says service limit. There is no service limit. So basically saying that there shouldn't be, there shouldn't, it doesn't have like a limit, for it to reach. So basically if it goes beyond that range, then, it's out of spec. So you would have to regrind it and all that good stuff. So don't get too carried away if you see that your crank is not within those specifications, unless you're doing an OEM build and stuff, right? But in my case, you know, a polish would be fine, but I'm gonna have to grind it, so you know some material is gonna be taken off. Same thing with the pistons, you know, like the pistons, I think the piston's supposed to range 75 millimeters. So then you might beg the question, then why are their pistons 75.5, right? Which is half an inch over our, what's the other one? 76 millimeters, right? Which is a whole inch. I don't know, is that inches or millimeters? I think that's millimeters, but you get the idea. So you're able to overbore, right? You're able to go, you know, beyond the limits. Obviously, still staying within clearance specifications. So let me show you guys how to measure this real quick. Let me show you two micrometers that I have. Some Harbor Freight ones, and then Mitutoyo ones, which is top tier, you know, premium ones. This is the Pittsburgh 3-piece micrometer set. You got the 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and 2 to 3, right? The problem with these is that the accuracy, they're only accurate to 1/1000th of an inch, which is good, but not good enough to measure journals on a crankshaft. And the reason why you want a more accurate micrometer is because when it comes to the clearances for the crankshaft and stuff like that, it's out to 4 decimals, which is a tenth or a tenth of 1,000. Basically, because the machinist world, it's a whole different way of numbering, you know, the systems. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, you know, with the numbers and stuff, but it's not the regular math that we've been taught in school. So in school, it's just tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, right? In the machinist world, it's 100,000s, 10,000s, thousands, and then a tenth or a tenth of 1,000, right? Basically, it's based, you know, the base of the value is based off of 1,000. So the reason why it's 100,000 is the first decimal. So like 0.1, you would know it as 1/10, but in the machinist world, that's known as 100,000s. The reason is because 100 divided by 1,000, 0.1, right? 10 divided by 1,000, 0.01, right? So that's 10,000s. 1,000s, that's 0.001, which is 1 over 1,000. And then 10,000, or then a tenth of 1,000 or a tenth in the machinist world, that's going to be, you're going to take 1 divided by 10, right? 0.1, and then multiply that by 0.001. That's how you get 0.0001, right? The 4th decimal. So that's why you need a micrometer that's accurate to 10,000s in the regular math world, or a tenth or a tenth of 1,000 in the machinist world. So this can only give me a accurate reading, only so much. But I'll show you guys, you know, the gist of it, of how to measure it. So the measurement of this, I kind of have an idea of where it's supposed to be at, right? Like I said, it's gonna be an inch and 770 thousandths and 7/10. So let me go ahead and see. Obviously, it's not the best way. This is a thousandth of an inch only accurate, but just for the sake of the purpose, just to demonstrate, I'm gonna show you guys how to measure this thing. All right, so I'm gonna take it, right? And once you get close and you're even on both sides, you're gonna go ahead and adjust it with a thimble, but then at the end, you're gonna use a little ratchet. So make sure you use the ratchet. Make sure you lock it. And you should still be able to take it out. So let's see what I have here. So according to this micrometer, I mean, obviously the crankshaft, you know, unless you had a complete obliteration, it should be kind of still close, even if you had like a spun bearing. But so if you look at the 7, right, that's going to be 700 thousandths already. You see the 20 there, right? So, and it's already at the second mark on the main scale, so that's 50. So you're going to have 750 thousandths, right? You pass the 20, so you're already at 770 thousandths. So another line would have been 771 thousandths. It's not yet at that 2 there, so I wouldn't consider it 772 thousandths. But this is where you would use the main, you know, this other scale right here, because it's in between 21 and 22. And the standard new, it gives a tolerance of about 1/1000th of an inch. So, but the fact that this is a 1/1000th of an inch only accurate, is not going to be able to read this accurately. So I wouldn't even bother. I guess it could be at 1/10. So that would be 7. So that'd be 1.771 or 1. So that would be 1 inch, 771 thousandths with 1/10, right? But obviously this is not the micrometer that you want to use for that. For these accurate readings, you want to use one of these with Toyo Baller micrometer. So again, this thing is pretty much, you know, the same thing. So it's at 0, right? And then if we give it a full rotation, right, to 25, this thing feels so much more nicer, man. 25, right? You see that line creeping it right there. So that's 25 thousandths of an inch, right? So same thing. These are 1,000 increments, and then the main scale here, those are at 25 thousandths, and then obviously the other part of the scale here, these are tenths, right? Or a tenth of 1,000. So let's go ahead and measure that crank again, and let's see if we can get a more accurate reading. Let's see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop it in. I'm trying to measure in the same spot too that I measured the other one for the sake of accuracy. So once I see that it's there, I'm gonna go ahead and start turning the dial, the thimble. And then once it's good, the little ratchet, I'm gonna go ahead and lock it. I'm gonna go ahead and wiggle it out. Okay, so let's see. So this is giving me here, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom it in a little bit for you guys. Okay, so we're getting at 700 thousandths, right, of an inch. It's approaching the 75 thousandths mark, right? So it's gonna be 700 thousandths and the 50 thousandths, so that's 770 thousandths, right? But we passed the 20 and we're right on nail with the 22 thousandths there. So it's gonna be 772 thousandths of an inch, no tenths. So this is about as accurate as you're gonna get with your Toyo one. So this right here is telling me that according with respect to the standard new, right, specifications on the OEM Honda manual, the range was between 1.7707, right, to 1.7717, right, so 1,000ths of an inch. And this is telling me that that is measuring 1.772. So basically, to the farthest limit on the standard new, this crankshaft on raw journal number 1, it's off by 3/10ths of an inch, or three tenths of a thousandth of an inch, right? So just 3/10ths of an inch, right? So very, very close, very close. So it's off by 3 of those little lines right there on this part of the main scale. So very, very small. So yeah, not 3/1000ths, not 3/10,000ths, 3/10ths of a thousand. So very, very small. So less than 1,000ths, 3/10ths of 1,000, right? So very, very, very small. So I mean, that seems about right, you get me? So it had a spun bearing. Looks like all the bearings got screwed up on this one, so that's right. Then, you know, that seems good. So but I'm not gonna freak out, and you shouldn't freak out either if you're measuring your stuff, because this just means that, you know, it's out of spec and you're gonna want to get a regrind, and then from there I can go ahead and figure out what kind of bearings, if I want to go oversized or any of that stuff, because standard, it's usually just if your crank is good still, but my crank is not good. But we can verify with the machine shop. I can actually ask the machine shop. I'll have them test me. I'll tell them, hey bro, measure this raw journal number 1, and let's see if he gets 1.772. If he does, then I'm a G. So yeah, guys, I don't want to overextend myself too much. You know, I don't want to sit here and measure every damn one, you know, for you guys. And I would be here forever trying to measure, and the video would be like 30 minutes long already. So, and just the last thing I want to share with you guys real quick is I had bought a set of pistons, right? Because I've always had this D16 turbo project in mind, like for the longest. So these are the pistons that I had bought, but I might go a semi-different route, not totally different route, but kind of a different route. So I had bought some Super Tech pistons. If you guys don't know, these are forged pistons. You got the rings in here, rings are in here, right? And then underneath this, I think it should be the pistons. Let's see, voila. What is this? Oh yeah, spec sheets, right? Specifications, your clearances, right? Then piston installation guidelines, right? Street performance, right? I mean, a bunch of good stuff here. You got your what is like the rings for the wrist pins and the actual pistons. So pretty nice, man. I mean, these are some baller ass pistons. So I haven't opened them at all. I've been saving them. The reason for that is because I was planning on going forged pistons and forged rods, which, don't get me wrong, that's still the end goal. But I think for now, because I'm only at 6 pounds, 6.5 pounds on the single cam right now, I might bump it up to 10 pretty soon. But just on that motor, I'm not trying to overkill that motor. That's why I'm trying to build a side motor. And I think because I was gonna buy the rods, and I was like, well, you know, another $500, I'll get the forged rods. So just in pistons and rods, we're talking about a band, easy. I've totally forgot about the Viterra pistons, the setup. That alone, just the pistons and the rods comes out to like $500, $550, plus the bearings and stuff. It's like call it 600 at the end of the day, which is really good. Those are not forged. Those are somewhere between the line of cast and forged. I'm not really sure what the proper material is. I can't even think of anything. So I'm thinking, what if I just go Vitera setup and I can do a nice, you know, 3 to 500 around that range, depending, you know, what stuff I put on the head and stuff, and the tune and the fuel, if I go 85, all the good stuff, right? And then eventually, I already have these pistons, and in the future, buy the remaining forged rods and then go with the block. I would like to go with the CCS, so the cylinder support system. That way, you know, I have a good chance of that motor lasting, because I don't want to blow up forged rods and forged pistons. You know, that stuff is already expensive anyway. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I think I might hold off on getting the forged rods, and I think I might end up buying the Vitera setup and then just throw that into the Y8 block or Z6. And hopefully by the time I go forge everything, I have the perfect head and block combo. So I'm gonna make this engine that I'm building right now kind of the experimental turbo, you know, the high horsepower turbo setup. And then for the final boss, to go with the forged setup. So